What is up, Guardians? Glad to have you with Drew. In today's video, we'll be breaking down a build that will give us a ton of damage resistance along with massive damage output without having to use an exotic class item. So without wasting any more time, let's jump into the build. The exotic armor piece for this build is Gifted Conviction. Now, I've used and seen great ways to use this piece of armor with an arc subclass along with a volt shot weapon. However, in today's video, we will break down how this piece of armor can be utilized with the all-new Prismatic subclass. When activating Ascension, bouncing explosions will jolt and damage nearby targets. Now, this throws out 3 of these explosions, jolting nearby enemies. When 3 separate enemies are hit, this gives us damage resistance times 3, which is 40%. When jolting an additional target, that will get it to times 4. However, this is only a difference of 10%. And that's where I found myself constantly reloading my Indebted Kindness, trying to jolt an additional enemy instead of maximizing my damage output. As far as this build goes, we will be using Ascension so much that we will always have a minimum of 25% damage resistance along with all the other damage resistance that Prismatic can offer that Arc cannot. If you don't already have this exotic armor piece unlocked, there are 2 ways of unlocking it. First can be selected from the Ghost Vendor in the Pale Heart location after defeating the Final Shape campaign on Legendary, or you can visit Rahu in the tower, and as long as he's been prestiged at least once, you can purchase it from him for 1 exotic Cipher and 1 exotic Ingram. With this piece now unlocked, let's jump into the build. Starting with our dodge selection, we'll be selecting Marksman Dodge, as this build will be based around using Ascension, so we're going to want to select the dodge with the quickest base cooldown. Now I have tested this. The damage resistance from Gifted Conviction lasts 10 seconds and Amplified lasts 15 seconds. When using this build's recommended stats with no armor charges, we'll be able to get our class ability back before Amplified runs out, allowing us to use this all of the time. For our jump, I select triple jump for my PvE content. This is completely preference, so go ahead and pick whatever jump you like. For our melee ability, we're going to be selecting Threaded Spike. I love this ability so much as it damages multiple targets, killing them easily, also severing them so we can throw these at bosses, allowing them to do less damage. You can choose Withering Blade here as you get 2 of these charges, but if we time our catch back right with Threaded Spike, it's going to allow us to get this back immediately. It also just makes the game more fun and challenging to be able to focus on that. For our grenade, we're going to be selecting the grapple grenade. This is going to unlock a completely different type of playstyle, bringing a ton of fun and mobility to this. Also, it's going to pair very well with the fragments that we select, which we'll go over here in just a moment. Moving on to the aspects for this build, of course, we are going to first start with Ascension, as this is going to pair extremely well with our exotic chest piece that we are selecting for this build. This will not only amplify us at the press of a button, but it also amplifies nearby allies, and it's also going to jolt targets, which will be great when coming up against Overlord champions. Final aspect that we will be selecting will be Gunpowder Gamble. Now, this is going to be an incredible pairing, as not only does it give us an additional fragment slot, but it's also going to cause a ton of damage, and with the abilities and fragments we select, we will be proccing this all of the time. A great tip to know about Gunpowder Gamble is that not only can it be charged from ability kills, it can also be charged by getting kills from either throwing or shooting a tangle. It has a 6-second cooldown, so with the abilities and tons of tangles we will be shooting, we will be able to use this grenade non-stop. Now for our first fragment, we're going to be selecting Facet of Hope. So while we have an elemental buff, which is all the time, our class ability regenerates more quickly. This is going to allow us to proc Amplify and have the damage resistance from our exotic chest piece active at all times. Now the next fragment we'll be selecting is Facet of Bravery. This is one of my favorite fragments in the entire game, and this is where we will take this build to the next level. As the grenade we selected is Grapple Grenade, so now with 1 kill from this, not only will it proc Unraveling rounds, it'll also proc Volatile rounds in 1 ability. Next up, we'll be selecting Facet of Courage. This will make Ascension and Gunpowder Gamble cause more damage to enemies with darkness debuffs, as we are spreading a lot of this with Tangle Explosions, Unraveling rounds, Threaded Spike, and our Grapple Grenade. Next, we will be selecting Facet of Awakening. When rapidly defeating enemies with light or darkness damage, this will generate an element pickup. We will be picking up a ton of these. Multi-kills from Gunpowder Gamble will give us Fire Sprite, granting us grenade energy. Multi-kills from Ascension will give us Ionic Traces for super energy. Kills from our Void weapons will give us Void Breaches, along with kills from our Call allowing us to shoot a lot more tangles. And finally, our last 2 fragments are going to pair very well with our exotic chest piece, allowing us to stack even more damage resistance, with Facet of Protection becoming active when surrounded by enemies, and Facet of Purpose giving us frost armor every time we pick up an Orb of Power. We'll be generating a ton of orbs with this build, so we usually will have this at a stack of 5. Onto the Hunter's Journal for this build. Basically, we're going to be starting off with the weapons that we're selecting. We're going to use the anti-pulse rifle barrier. We're also going to use unstoppable sidearm for our call. This is going to make that weapon even stronger and help us deal with champions, as we can deal with all champion types with this build. Then I like to select overcharged armory. This is great for when the power weapon does not match the surge for events like Nightfall. That way you don't have to end up switching your weapon. You can throw on the new Strand LMG and it'll be overcharged. Then Winning Hand is selected, as this makes the call even stronger than it already is. I feel this is one of the most underrated perks in the journal because it does cause solar damage to nearby combatants when we get precision kills. Next is Press the Advantage. This will just give us nice stability, handling, and reload speed whenever we break a shield. A very underrated perk in my opinion as well. And then Threaded Blast, with all the tangles we'll be shooting, this is going to cause fireworks of explosions and do tons and tons of damage. I love this perk. Radiant Orbs is an automatic must, and it allows us not to have to choose Facet of Dawn, because with how many orbs we're generating, we will be radiant all the time. Galvanic Armor is also excellent because we are amplified all the time, and we have a Prismatic subclass. We're going to get even more reduced damage to pair with all the damage resistance that this build brings. The solar perk for this is going to be incredible to choose because it's going to have our ignitions do increased damage and an increased radius, so that's going to be excellent for Gunpowder's Gamble. Shield Crush is fantastic because we have Frost Armor all the time, and we're also amplified and radiant all the time, so that's going to have our melee and our grenades do more damage and rejuvenate faster. And then Transference is going to be excellent because it's going to have our abilities, while Transcendence do even more damage, slay out with our weapons, and we'll get Transcendence back, so that way we have that mini super active as much as possible. Onto the weapons for this build. In the kinetic slot, we are bringing the Almighty Call. I highly recommend pairing this with Demo for grenade energy refunds and Vorpal Weapon for more boss damage. This is just my build. You can bring what you like, but Demolitionist is highly recommended. For the energy slot, we are going with Graviton Lance. If you have the Catalyst, this is even better because it also comes with Vorpal Weapon to do more boss damage, and it's also going to have a overshield granted to us anytime we break an enemy's shield. So this is also excellent. If you don't have the Catalyst, you can go with something like Ellie's Rifle, which is also great if it has Repulsor Brace, because with the volatile rounds that we were shooting and destabilizing rounds on this as well is great to pair with. That's going to give us an overshield on top of all the damage resistance that this build already brings, and it's a pulse rifle, so we'll be able to take care of those barrier champions. This is just a second recommendation though. The AoE clear for Graviton Lance is incredible. For your power weapon, you can take anything you like. I just recommend it be Strand or Void. That way it pairs very well with Unraveling and Volatile rounds. Here's just a couple suggestions. The Hammerhead is fantastic with Rampage and Killing Tally. Ed's Transit is one of the best weapons in the game. And then also the new Strand LMG is also fantastic. So any one of these will definitely do. For mods, you can go ahead and take a screenshot. I'll also have links in the description on this, but just to do a quick run through on them, we're going to be wanting a Void and Strand Siphon to generate a ton of orbs from our weapons. Then we're also going to be running Firepower and Heavy Handed. These two perks on our arms are excellent because one kill from a grapple grenade will actually generate 2 orbs, which is incredible. And then Fastball, this just lets us grapple a little bit further. For the chest, it's typically the same as usual, just depending on the activity that you're running, we're going to select that type of damage resistance. For the boots, Recuperation is an absolute must, as when picking one of these up basically gets us back to full health. Void Weapon Surge is highly recommended to give our Void weapons more damage, and then depending on if you pick a Strand or Void weapon, I select that type of scavenger so I can have more ammunition for my power weapon. For our class item, because we are using Ascension and not actually dodging, a lot of these mods do not work, so I recommend using Utility Kickstarter, Proximity Warden, and Healthy Finisher. I've also tested it. One Utility Kickstarter is plenty with our armor charges. Stacking these did not give me any significant boost. For stats, Resilience at tier 10 will just complement all the damage resistance that we have for this build, making us unkillable. Then I recommend doing Discipline and Intellect at tier 8. This is getting us our super all of the time, and with Demolitionist on our call, we have no problem getting our grenade back. Strength at a tier 7 is excellent because when you hit multiple enemies with Threaded Spike and then catch it, we're going to get that back right away. And then Mobility only needs to be at 40 because when we're amplified, that gives us 50, making it 90, and we're amplified all the time, so there's real no reason to go any higher than 40. I have tested the difference between tier 4 and tier 5, and with Utility Kickstarter, there was a difference of less than 1 second. For champions, we can take all kinds with this build. Overlords are just a simple quick ascension, and they will be instantly stunned. And then with our weapons being selected from the artifact journal, we're able to take out barrier and unstoppable champions at ease. Your gameplay loop should go as follows. Grapple grenade into an enemy to kill them. This will proc Unraveling and Volatile rounds. Use Ascension immediately. This pairs very well with the grapple grenade to get amplified and proc our damage resistance from our exotic chest. Get kills with your weapon and shoot tangles as they spawn spawn. Throw out gunpowder grenade anytime you have it, as this cooldown, as soon as it is gone, we should already have it back. Transcendent should be proccing about every 30 seconds, so use this as much as possible as a little mini super. And then as soon as that is finished, make sure that you restart the loop. Also, our super is going to regenerate very quickly with our intellect being so high and all the orbs that we're generating, so do not be afraid to use your super. You will be able to use this multiple times throughout an event. Thanks so much for everybody for watching today's video and stopping by the channel. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps grow the channel so much. Look forward to seeing in the comments your thoughts on this build and what type of build you'd like to see next, whether it be a specific exotic class item pairing or a switch to Warlock or Titan build. As always, happy hunting, Guardians, and have a great day.